Le Mans Ultimate, round number 2 in the Sprint Series Championship. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very sunny Monza here in Italy. I'm Jesse Lee, joined by Katrina with Ted Edwards on the cameras, and we are live for round number 2, midway through the qualifying session. And Katrina, it's nice to be out of the desert, nice to be here in the sun in Italy. And the drivers, too, are going to be reaping that and saying the same thing. Very familiar confines here now.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jesse. They're going to be loving the fact that there's a different track that really rewards the cars that are fast in a straight line speed.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. This is somewhat different. A lot of intricate corners here, very important corners, of course, not a lot fewer than in Bahrain a week ago. Top speed is absolutely paramount at a circuit of this variety, and of course how you navigate the high-speed sections as well. Should see a lot of racing back and forth here as well, because a lot of these corners, they are the great equalizer. If you got a car that's really good in a straight line, if you get into the Lesmo section, your car's likely not going to be as good through there as you have less aero. Maybe the balance is a little bit different, but before we get into that, it is qualifying. It is a split quali. The hypercars in one qualifying session to themselves, and the LMGT3s. Those are the two classes we've got on deck for you today. And a couple of updates from when we last signed off 1 week ago. We've had a couple of cars, a couple of drivers that have been moved from Split 2 into Split 1 based on their performance, Katrina, and one of those is the 46 of Lily Armstrong, who was absolutely dominant in Split 2 in Bahrain, earning them a spot here in Split 1 now.
Yeah, it definitely looked like they're settling in into the top split over here. Nice, with a cheeky little 7th, no, that's 8th at the minute in qualifying, so it's good to see.
I talked to Lily before we got into today's qualifying session. They were almost bricking themselves just a little bit as they're in Split 1, but I think, honestly, deep inside, they relish the opportunity, and being less than a tenth off of Ryan Gill, pretty good here in the early going. Their lap times looked fine, by the way, in the earlier practice session. Klaus Nyring up in front of the field in the 155 Ferrari, the quickest of all in LMGT3 quali. It's a 49.040. Here is makes no difference, 2/10 quicker than Grant Willemont, who just utterly dominated Bahrain here in Split 1.
Yeah, absolutely ran away from the pack in Bahrain, so hopefully we can have some people contending for that number 1 spot today.
Going to be interesting to see if maybe they were just a Bahrain specialist. Of course, a racetrack where I heard so many drivers a week ago say that they had never really raced that. They've obviously seen races there in Formula competition in the past, and that's about it. And today, the complete polar opposite of that. I would hazard the guess that every single driver in this field has done at least a handful of races here at Monza. Nyring still quickest with Willemont. Lindler in third place now in the 59 McLaren. Vestrepa in fourth, and Phil Vick in fifth is your top 5. Buckley, Beckett, Gill, Armstrong, Sinney, and Cotton, the top 11, or the 11 LMGT3s. You will recall we only had about 8 of them in round 1 due to the split rebalancing. We have got several more. Dave Beckett has gone off in the WRT BMW, and I can only tell if that was on purpose for resetting or that was accident. Didn't really make contact with anything, but they're certainly not setting off either. Here's Christoph Vestrepa. Now, talk about a driver who had a resurgence. They were as low as 7th place a week ago and came all the way back to finish on the podium. What an epic drive back to a medaling position.
Yeah, fantastic to see, and it looks like they're comfortable out on the track here today. Sitting in 4th currently, setting good times on their sectors as well, so hopefully can improve on their lap time.
Yes, indeed. Hello, everyone out there watching at home. Of course, we welcome you into the stream today as well. Round number 2 here of the LMU Sprint Championship on Fridays. And very interesting qualifying thus far. Very close in comparison to what it was a week ago. Hello to Matt Malcolm. Mo for show in chat as well. Love to hear Oh, love to hear from some of you who your favorite driver is, as that looked like a very interesting accident from Chris Verstappen. Now, was that frustration, losing time perhaps, or invalidating? I was watching that, Katrina, a little bit in practice. Very easy to do, almost ACC-like. If you, in a Scari, go over the right-hand curb, you will invalidate your lap pretty easily indeed. So watching out for that could be huge. Could have Verstappen done something like that? It very well could have been. Peter Roche, one of the hybrid cars, out there looking to set time. And it will be very interesting to note how they will do. The Alpines sort of had a checkered first race, I would argue. They were decent and then not so great and then decent again right at the end. A couple of penalties right at the end and some crazy pit stops led to a couple of Alpines being inside the top 10, I do believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're out on laps with the hypercars now. See what time and pace that they've got compared to GT3.
Sure will. Split qualifying, of course, meaning the first part of it is GT or LMGT3. The second part of it is hypercar. So that is how they'll line up in the LMGT3 field, but we'll bring you up to speed on wherever it lines up after the conclusion of this qualifying. David Pettick rocking the A, of course, at 83, looking to pick up where they left off from a week ago. And this hypercar battle was interesting. The only spot not in doubt was really the win, except on the last lap. Leader tried to time it, very nearly gave up the win a week ago. That was almost, I don't know what I would have been beside myself to lose a race like that.
Yeah, definitely. Probably a little bit of panic went through the number one spot. Then when they were just waiting for that timer to tick down, but it didn't quite tick down, and the person behind him in second just was quickly approaching.
Moenchat's asking, is there someone on the gamepad? There is. Lily Armstrong, who we talked about being bumped up to this class, does run on a gamepad the same way that Armstrong does it in ACC. They do it here. I was quite curious about that as Kapslar goes to the provisional pole. It's a 34.802. Pettick's in second, nearly 4/10 down. Kirtan, Ramos, Sirich, Mowing. Cooper, Dreesh, Rodriguez, Fonza, Octane, the drivers that have taken time. Gottschalk, Roche, Facekiss, Roskim, Badowski, and McDonger have not taken time. And I do know that Jack McDonger was a little late today. He showed up incredibly late to the party here, but is in the race nonetheless. But yes, indeed, Lily Armstrong in the LMGT3 BMW is running on a gamepad, and they did tell me that there was some difficulty, some learning curve to that. I mean, there's going to be that with any peripheral, right? You would assume, Katrina.
Yeah, absolutely. Different ways of reacting with different visuals. Oh word.
Yeah, I mean, you switch sims, and everything's different to everybody. It doesn't matter what wheelbase or what steering peripheral you have. It's going to be different. It's going to feel weird to you, and you're going to have to get used to the way that the feedback works, and of course the rumble's different as well. And it's no different in a dual shock controller or an Xbox controller, whatever it would be. Those are supported in LMU, and I think that Lily Armstrong proved last week that you can be a top level player on a gamepad. We'll see them probably continue that today. Kirtan's gone to the top of the board. It's the 34.575. That moves Kapslar down to second. Ramos, Cooper moaning the top five right now, and that is crazy. Kirtan in the Porsche up to P1, making Papa proud.
Absolutely. Fantastic to see everybody out there on the track. Worth noting that Rodriguez, who was fast in Bahrain, is only sitting 7th at the minute, so probably going to be looking to push that time up and trying to contend for the number one spot. I mean, as it goes when you're on that first lap and stuff, you want to be quite close to the front to try and minimize maybe anything that happens behind and being caught up in turn one issues, shall we say.
What's going on with Gottschalk down in 15th place? Absolutely nowhere here in this qualifying session. They've set a lap time, but it's not representative at all. Could that have just been the safety lap, and now they're on one? But Michelle Rodriguez for the Alpine 35, they're trying to do exactly the same. It just look how different it is. If you're used to, Katrina, I know you and I are used to watching GT3 cars a lot. Just how much more violent watching a hypercar go through Ascari is versus a GT3. It's just incredible. It's like it's on a knife's edge. It just cuts through water like a fish almost.
Almost like they don't even really slow down. They look like they are speeding.
We're going to see what kind of lap time that is. It's going to be a 35.5. That will keep them 7th place right now. The top of the board very much getting closer. Capslar now retakes the provisional pole in the 83 Ferrari. It's a 34.422, 1.5 tenths off is Kierton Moning up to 3rd place. Ramos in 4th. Cooper now in 5th. Billy Octane just about cracking the top 5. Gets pushed back by Peter Roche, who goes P6 in his Alpine. And here come those Alpines again. Didn't look so great in the first couple laps, but coming on strong here. Both of them back inside the top 10. Both of the Toyotas, the surprise for me, Fonza and Gottschalk, not in the top 10, not even close to the top 10 currently.
It definitely looks like that they are the ones that are struggling. Maybe the Toyota isn't as fast in a straight line speed here, so that they're struggling. Like you said, they may make it up in the curve, the bends, but it might be that they're just struggling for that pace at this track.
Could very well be. 2 minutes left here. All flying laps do count in LMU, so as long as you get to the line before time expires, you get to complete that lap. And some people are going to be quite close to that. That was an improvement for Nick Cooper, a 34.913. Sees them go to 4th. Does the AF Corse number 50. They actually set the quickest 3rd sector of all on that particular lap, and that helped them improve upon their times. So they're in 4th place. Rodriguez just outside the top 5 now. Billy Octane in 10th place now, was very nearly inside the top 10 a moment ago. They're going to probably close the door on quali. That'll be as good as they're going to do. That'll be leaving everything in the hands of all these drivers. Marko Badowski for Porsche Penske. What a week they've had in real life. Looking to improve, does not do it on that lap there. Everyone chasing the 83 of Capslar, 34.422. Roche's got close. He's cut about 4/100ths off of the time. We'll see if he can continue to make some of that magic work. A personal best for McDonger, a 137.138, but still significantly off of the pace. Daniel Gottschalk now inside the top 10 for Toyota Gazoo. Set the quickest of all first sector, a personal best in sector 2. Let's see what it is at the line here. It's going to be a 34.557. That's more like it. That's going to put them on the 2nd row of the grid. Toyota's showing up late.
Better late than never. That's what they say. It's interesting to see that from 1st all the way down to 16th, there's 1 second between everybody, which is madness.
That is really incredible. I mean, Monza is known for its close qualifying, but when you consider these cars and the pace they're going around here, you almost sort of expect it, but it's still impressive. That is a lot of cars, 15 of them within a second. And why that's even more interesting is, as you know, if you're not significantly faster at a place like Monza, it's incredibly hard to break away from the pack. So drafting being a factor here, this could mean we can have huge groups of cars, at least early on in this race. Few positions now changing hands. Capslar, everyone's still chasing them in Roche on the front row. Gottschalk and Kierton row 2. Cooper and Moning the next row, row 3. Faiskas, Ramos, Rodriguez, Sirich, Octane, Dreesh, Badowski, Pettick, Fonza, Rosca, McDonger, the 17 hypercars that are qualifying. If you've just joined us now, LMGT3 qualified first in their own session. Second half of quali is for the hypercars. Time expiring. Several cars still on a decent lap. Michael Moning's going to have to pick it up in sector 3 here. Otherwise, he will not improve his time, however.
Yeah, these ones are just trying to improve on their time, aren't they? Just trying to push that car a little bit faster to see where they can get onto on the grid.
Couple of cars still out there. Molding will be the first to get to the line. Will it be a pickup? It will actually be his quickest of all in the third sector, but will not pick up anything beyond sixth place. Francisco Fonza has called off their lap. They're going to start about 15th, and that will just about do it for qualifying here today. Here is the results of qualifying, starting with the hypercar class. Adam Kapslar, a 34.422. Peter Roche will share the front row 1/10 off. Daniel Gottschalk at 135 behind, with Louis Kirton, who sat on pole for a moment here. Louis continues to impress us here, and certainly drove through the field in Bahrain. Today he's starting up there with them tonight. We'll see what he can do. Nick Cooper rounds out your top five, a little over 2/10 behind. Michael Moning, Barnabas Fazekiss, Mikel Ramos, Mitchell Rodriguez, and Maciej Sirik, the top 10 in hypercar. Outside of that, Billy Octane, Zeno Dreesch, Marco Badowski, David Pettick, Francisco Fonza, Theobald Roscom, and Jack McDonger make up the rest of your hypercar field. And again, 15 of those cars within a second. Excellent BOP, if you ask me. Moving right along to LMG T3, Klaus Nyring on pole, a familiar spot for Klaus and a familiar place that we see him in the 155 Ferrari. A 49.040, good enough for pole over Grant Willamont, who has work to do for the first time this season. Lindner in third place with Christoph Strepa in the second row with them, 2.5 tenths off of the overall pace. Phil Vick, Ellis Buckley, the next row, David Beckett, Ryan Gill, Lily Armstrong, Piero Cini, the top 10 and the only 10 LMGT3s in the field. And even those cars have 9 within a second. The lone Corvette, oh, I'm incorrect. There are 11 cars, as it turns out, and it's Andy Cotton in the 46 BMW, but 9 out of the 11 LMGT3s within a second. Going to run the running order by you on the screen as we go down to Katrina. Got to ask, very different race from last week. Everyone was fighting the racetrack, trying to understand the dynamics of the sim. You're still trying to figure out the relative pace and the ability of your manufacturers. Of course, they're all different. They all have different handling characteristics, but a familiar racetrack that's got to do a lot for drivers' confidence. What's the strat out there tonight, especially if you're up near the front in your class?
I think we're going to see a lot of people just trying to get through lap 1 and lap 2, you know, trying to break away from that pack. And then I think we're going to see people trying to strategize about pits and when to go in for pits. I would expect maybe halfway through again to start seeing that pit action taking place and seeing them try and gain something from their car after their pits. Whether they take tires or they don't take tires, it's up to them.
Well, we saw some pit road miscues as well last week. As you may know, a couple of cars had to come in twice. The extra lap at the end kind of threw a monkey wrench in some of the other teams' plans as well. Do you take risk? Do you gamble here today, knowing that it could be more of the same? And have hopefully you've ironed out all of the rough edges, but is there sort of an error on the side of caution feeling into this race, do you think?
I don't actually know, Jesse. I'm not gonna lie. I think people might still be cautious, but I think there was a lot of mistakes maybe last week that happened that they're going to learn from. So hopefully we don't see the same issues. Everybody's learned how much, you know, fuel and stuff that the car says that they need and stuff, and we don't see any of them issues. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes smoothly for everybody.
Of course, if you weren't with us 1 week ago, there were pit road miscues at Bahrain. There was a sort of an incident. The leader in hypercar is the one who officially takes the checkered flag first past the post rules and all that. And they rolled over the line, not knowing if it was the start line or the Formula One start line that started and ended the race necessarily. they had such a lead, they were trying to not run an extra lap. They stopped, gave up most of their 10 to 15-second lead, accidentally rolled over the line, had to do another lap, won the race by a second and a half. It was quite close after not being so for the majority of the race. But what that actually did was a couple of hypercars and a couple of LMGT3s had fueled to a specific number, assuming there wouldn't be a +1 lap. That was effectively a +1 lap, despite the fact that that's not how the series works. But because of the way the leader got to the line, that is how it worked. My goodness, it was high drama indeed. So I'd imagine the majority of the field are going to add an extra lap of fuel in there. And one other thing, Katrina, we learned is that pretty much everyone, we thought there may be a chance that LMGT3s didn't have to pit to refuel their electric or hybrid systems. That's not true. They do have to fill up their energy systems just like the hypercars do.
Yeah, I expect to see everybody having to come into the pits to fill that up. You're right.
Here they come around the curve of Parabolica for the last time under pace speed. They will be released down into turn number 1. And it is a very dangerous situation getting into that corner as the hypercars are released and they're already diving out of line into the Prima Variante, and looks like the Ferrari is going to get the pip on the Alpine. Oh, and everybody on the brakes trying not to lock up. They're 3 wide. There's a Porsche, there's a Toyota, and an Alpine, and they somehow get it down to 2 wide. Meanwhile, 3 wide in the back there. Looks like Cooper, Faiskas, and Moni going at it down to 2 wide as they go through the Curva Grande for the very first time, at least down to 2 wide. That's a safer bet here as they head up to the Seconda Variante. Looking pretty good.
Yeah, looking nice and clean from everybody. I got a bit worried there when we were a little bit 3 wide going into that first corner, but it looks like everybody's came out unscathed.
LMU has this nice thing where the net code, it sort of plays ball and it allows you to bump fenders without taking you out, and that's exactly how they got through the first chicane. Oh, but they're not going to get through Lesmo 1, as it's going to be one of the Porsches and 2 of the Peugeots. Barnabas Faiskas goes off of the racetrack as well. So does Moaning. Oh, and it's more drama here as the 12 of Mikel Ramos is stuck on the track. How did he get all the way back onto the racetrack? Was there contact with another car? The LMGT3s get through, but for Mikel Ramos, that was a very costly maneuver there into the first Lesmo.
Yeah, absolutely. Something's definitely happened for them to come back onto the track there, and they are now currently sitting right at the back.
Kapslar still the leader of the race with Roche in second in the Alpine, Gottschalk up to third, and Louis Kirton in fourth. Cooper Rodriguez the next couple of cars, but high drama there involving 2 of the Peugeots and 1 of the Porsches as they have basically fallen all the way back down the field. That will be some damage to the car, and I would dare guess that would likely be more of a detriment at other racetracks, but depending on where it is on the car, if it's front wing or rear wing splitter or wing damage, I should say, that could be quite costly to top speed knowing the sim. But if it's side pod damage, it might be somewhat okay. Moreover, the time loss is the big thing. It's super difficult to make up time here unless the teams really get after each other, but they are doing here for second place. Roche, Gottschalk, you got Kirton and Cooper with Rodriguez in the background there, all fighting over these top spots. Meanwhile, you got Maciej Sirik here, who's doing their level best to keep Dreesh in the lone Lamborghini behind them as well. Lamborghini, not a popular pick though. Looks like Dreesh has figured it out.
Yeah, absolutely. That crash meant that the first 5 out the front have kind of pulled a little bit of a lead, so it'll be good to see if this next little pack from 7th, 6th on backwards can catch up to them.
Matt Malcolm has pointed out that yeah, he knows very well that the LMGT3s have to come in for a pit stop because his virtual energy messed him up in the first race. And again, part of the teething problems, new sim, new systems in those sims. Everyone has to learn them sort of at their own pace. If you're going to make mistakes, you might as well do it in race number 1. Because as we said, signing off last week, you can't win the championship in Bahrain, but maybe you can't lose it either if you have a good enough rest of this season. Looked like a pretty good start from LMGT3, no drama there, as the majority of those were able to get away pretty much unscathed, less 3 wide anyway, you could say. But all things considered, looking good. Phil Vick trying to make up a spot here and keep it from Verstappen, put Verstappen down a spot. And he might just do it down here into turn 1, you know. Hard onto the brakes there is Verstappen going around the outside, trying to not give him too much quarter, and he doesn't. They equal level, and a huge wiggle there. That should give Vic the opportunity to run this out during the Curva Grande. In the background, Buckley in the background of the 86, it is, looking to get a piece of this. They're still side by side with Verstappen not giving up.
They look like they're pretty much just fighting it. Backs and forwards, they want to be keeping the line. Ellis now just trying to wait for them to make a mistake, you know, just being there just in case anything happens, you know, trying to get that little bit of a toe that they can from the cars in front.
Ellis Buckley would have quite liked that to go on for another corner or 2 more. Would have liked to have got into that fight and maybe got a top 5 spot out of it. Verstappen reestablishes P4 over Vic. Lindner right in front of them. That would be the likely next target for Christoph as he continues on. Theobald Roscom working their way closer to the top 10. And the Porsche Penske sees themselves in 14th. They're getting by the Toyota of Fonza. Looks to the outside, given to him by Fonza. If he can outbrake him, this might be pretty decent, but no. None of that going on there as he goes back in the line. Better brakes down the inside, getting over, rotated, and a couple of cars a little out of sorts exiting the first chicane.
Yes, definitely. You got to be careful of all them bumps going through that first chicane, because one little slip and, you know, you can just lose that car and then you've lost your place on the track.
We saw last week, we even made mention of it at the beginning of the race, even into the mid part of the race, that most of the hypercars were very well mannered on track. They weren't slipping too much. They looked like they had all the grip they could handle, despite it being a cold and potentially sandy racetrack. So today we wouldn't expect anything out of the ordinary. The problem was, as the race went on in Bahrain, into that hour race, the handling issues started to crop up. It started to be a problem for both classes as the tire wear, the tire deg started to get in there. So you worry if you're already slipping here a little bit, or you're leaning on the tire a little bit too much, like we've seen a couple of cars do thus far, you worry what that's going to do to the tire late in the race. We theorized maybe a couple of people would take tires. There may have been 1 or 2 teams that took tires a week ago, but it certainly wasn't anywhere near a split decision, as most people elected to finish on the tires that they started on. For the second week in a row, though, Ryan Gill, who was our early standout in LMU, just absolutely obliterated the field at our Sebring race. For the second week in a row, has found themselves at the back of the pack.
Yeah, really far at the back of the pack as well. I wonder if there was an issue, Jesse, and that's why he's so far back.
Well, there's certainly been an issue. You'd have to wonder what sort, though. Was it another car, or was it self-inflicted? We've seen a little bit of both thus far today, but it's just frustrating for a driver who has shown so much ability, now 2 weeks in a row in the championship, unable to get it going. Gill did recover a little bit last week, but with even more competition this week and being even further back, it's going to be a long, lonely road for Gill.
Yeah, but I feel like if anybody can do it after the performance that we've seen Gill put in, I believe he can come back and pick up some of them places from the back.
Well, you can't give up either way. Giving up is, well, if you give up, you're a loser. I'm just going to say giving up is for losers. And, oh, my goodness, huge off into the background. One of the, I think that's a Ferrari that's gone to the wall. It is. It's Jack McDonger has exited Ascari in a very violent fashion and has somehow kept the body panels on the car, which is strange for how hard they hit. But that car is severely damaged. The wheel alignment on that car is certainly askew, and this has to be a pit stop, and certainly they are coming into the pit lane now. They're going to have to replace all 4 corners on the car. You can see steering straight. Well, the steering isn't straight. Tie rod definitely bent. on that car. Oh, they're retiring it. In fact, they're going straight to the garage. Is Jack McDonger's 51 after a humongous hit exiting Ascari. We saw a couple of cars get loose, but that's the first one to lose it. Oh no!
Oh my!
Nick Cooper's going for a spin. Another Ferrari has been put in the wall in between the Lesmos.
Yeah, I think that was Ryan Gill.
An unfortunate moment there. Caught live. That wasn't Ryan Gill. We keep seeing Ryan Gill, but that wasn't Ryan Gill in that incident. Nick Cooper still sitting up against the wall here. Don't know if they intend to rejoin and they're just being cautious about it, or if they're just a little frustrated. I think they may just be a little bit frustrated. I wonder if that was Grant Willamette or Beckett, in fact. That might have been Grant. They're all driving the same number 31, but it wasn't Gill because Gill's nowhere near that incident, near that pack. It was either Willamette or Beckett.
Yeah, it's not good to see either way. We like to keep it nice and clean, and not that I'm saying that wasn't clean, but the accidents happen, and obviously that was something that is just a shame because now we see Cooper in trouble.
Hard to say what went on there. Not exactly sure if that was the hypercar trying to merge when they weren't clear, or potentially one of the BMWs trying to maneuver where there wasn't space afforded. Not really sure. Wolf Matushka has joined us to blame Ryan Gill, but you know what? We can't for that. I'm quite certain that was not the Ryan Gill 31. That was one of the other 31s. Matt Malcolm also reminding us that suspension damage is lethal. It is in the R-Factor based sims. It is horrible. You really have to take care of the car, Katrina, in a way that in ACC, or even in some instances, iRacing are a little bit more forgiving. I mean, iRacing's newer damage model, it can be absolutely brutal as well, as our broadcaster Ted Edwards well knows. But it can be very brutal in LMU as well. A simple tap could be enough to break a linking rod, and then all of a sudden you're forced to come down pit lane. It's not like ACC where you could just sort of get over it.
Yeah, in a race like this where they're racing and they're going through the pack and stuff, all of these things will be playing into their mind, Jesse. They'll be thinking about, if they make a mistake, if they do happen to crash and touch the barriers or the walls, that could fatally cost them their race. So it's definitely something that will be playing on their mind.
Kapslar leads Roche, leads Gottschalk and Kierton, the top four cars here, all separated by a second or two apiece. Kapslar's leading, but hasn't really run away from it as the entire pack now working the LMGT3 traffic. Several cars have DNF. Ryan Gill is one of those. Cooper, which was the Ferrari hypercar we saw stranded backwards in between the Lesmos, that car has also retired, and we saw the retirement of Jack McDonger as well. The majority of the LMGT3 fell, I think I'm correct to saying just about all of them, if not all of them, lapped down. So there it is, the DNFs of Gill, Cooper, and McDonger. Those cars have elected to retire for the day. Meanwhile, battles intensifying, and strategy potentially as Zeno Dries trying to make their way through. Doing it quite smartly. Could have forced the issue there, realized that wasn't the space to do it through Ascari. Gave a moment and was able to make their way cleanly and didn't give up anything. Oh, but it's going to be contact here. The 93, minding their own business, if you ask me, of Michael Moaning. Ellis Buckley, I think just a misjudgment of the space and distance. Oh, and he's done it again, look. Straight into the path of an oncoming car. The Corvette didn't see, and that's very broken. That very much illustrates my point I made a second ago. It didn't look like a violent tap, but it didn't have to be to break that connecting rod and break the steering of that car.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a small tap and it is actually broken the car, which is what we were saying. It's very unforgiving. Unfortunate misjudgment there from Ellis.
Yeah, I wonder if Ellis didn't mean to rejoin in that fashion through Parabolica, but didn't really have much of a choice because of the way the car was driving and made additional contact there. Scary indeed. But unfortunately, it's brought Ellis to the pit lane, and more contact there with some of the LMG T3 cars. As it's been a bit more fracas than we saw in week one out there. The hypercars that were, I think, were almost a non-issue with the LMG3 field. We've already seen more contact between the two classes today than we saw in an entire 60 minutes of racing a week ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely seems like the traffic and getting past the traffic has been a little bit more hard, shall we say, this week than it was last week on the track at Bahrain.
We're actually being given additional information from Ryan Gill. So the accident that put them so far behind, and the reason they have DNF, was not a mechanical failure of sorts, Katrina. It was a connection-based issue, and they felt that they were a hazard out there on the racetrack.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
Technically, that's an electrical gremlin, I think, is what that ends up being, but not the mechanical fault. And by the way, with all apologies to Wolf Patushka, that was Ryan Gill that was involved in that incident that we saw earlier on, despite us not thinking it was, and maybe the connection issues that Gill was having throwing us an absolute dummy there. But Wolf Patushka, eagle-eyed viewer, eagle-eyed race car driver, feeling or seeing that was indeed Ryan Gill. You do have to excuse us. There were several 31s in the field, and it could have been any of them. And but yeah, the connection issues taking Ryan out of the race. Self-lamenting that this just hasn't been his championship. A lock up of the brake of Louis Kierton. But gets away with it there.
Pushing that car hard, Jesse. They're trying to get past each other, aren't they?
Yep. Was just trying to get up beside them, get as close as they possibly could. Had an opportunity to take third place here and got a little overzealous, locked the car up. Braking in these cars, these hypercars, very difficult indeed. You're on the razor's edge, and I was super surprised going down into turn one, not only lap one, but lap two, that we didn't see more locking than we did. We saw some, but not a lot. I think, you know, what a difference a week makes. A lot of these drivers have dialed in what their brake pressure needs to be to keep from locking the car up.
Yeah, definitely, as we see that Stinney has a DNF'd as well, which is unfortunate.
Now that's interesting. Now remember, that is one of the cars that had contact in Parabolica, and I wonder if something was broke on that Corvette that led them to retiring that car as well.
Now on board with us at the minute, we were with Lily Armstrong, who is pushing for that 5th place at the minute.
Very interesting to see a controller player versus a wheel player. Anyone who aspires to race sims with a controller player, or as a controller player, I should say, Lily Armstrong is a shining example of exactly that. Races with the gamepad. Admitted to me that, yeah, setting it up, getting settings that felt good was a bit difficult. I assume they would have been trying to get it close to ACC, but very different sort of handling characteristic here. In ACC, Katrina, we see Lily sort of jerking at the wheel, but a lot more smooth here in this sim.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be paying off for him in this new sim. Things we love to see. It brings more people in, hopefully more people will see that it can be done. Well, maybe they'll give it a go.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, there are sims, or there are leagues or series that don't allow you to enter with a gamepad. We're not one of those because we're not afraid, and neither should anyone else be. Absolutely in control, looking for a top 5 spot here. Of course, Lily Armstrong is one of those drivers that has an incredible pedigree for this sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know if they have smoothing on or what, but complete opposite of ACC with the very violent jerky motion. It also could be netcode too that makes it look like that, but I don't think so. I think it's just a more direct input in ACC versus here. But either way, could just be the way the animation looks as well. But either way, looking good, hunting top 5. And if you look directly in front of 5th place, that McLaren now, that is the 4th place car, BMW of Vic. This is quite interesting to see Armstrong potentially fighting Christopher Strepe, a multi-time esports series championship winner. And to see Armstrong going head-to-head with them, I mean, for a driver that was a bit concerned about being in split 1, I think if you're rubbing elbows with Christopher Strepe, you're doing a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gap to the leader, going out just a little bit, 2.6 seconds to gap Capslar to Roche. Gottschalk, another mirrors makes no difference. Well, actually, yeah, 3 seconds back or so from them. Oh, Zeno Dreesch coming into the pit lane. This would be a scheduled pit stop, Katrina, just early.
Yeah, maybe sitting at the back, they're thinking about doing something, trying some different strategies.
Very well what they're talking about here. Up on the jacks, had to pull the car back a little bit. Sitting there, taking on, I would say this is significant fuel in the car. Is this a tire change? I don't know. But they're sitting there for quite a long time. This is either tires or damage. They would have been gone by now. They're up on the jack again. So they went up on the jack to move the car back in place, dropped it, put the fuel in it, put it back up on the jack. Yeah, that was a tire change. They absolutely changed tires on the Iron Lynx Lamborghini.
Yeah, I think that makes sense though. If I was running in 15th position, I'd think about doing something, getting fresh tires. You know, you're probably gonna change position on the track from where you were before, so it's just like, you know, momentum, changing your tires, trying to gain that speed back and seeing what you can do.
Could be some action here from the Porsche Penske's, Badowski and Sears. I feel like I've seen this somewhere recently. I don't know. It's just weird. Marco Badowski pulling out here, trying to make the move down the inside into the first chicane. Has the position. Now, keep in mind, they're running the same team. They are not teammates. The livery selection limited, and a lot of them repeating is all. And you saw Sirich defend that position. Badowski losing out. Now down into the grips of Billy Octane, who will look to take over 7th place. So Badowski goes from potentially looking at taking 6th to potentially losing out for 8th.
Yeah, absolutely. Billy's just on the tail, just waiting for something to happen. You know, pushing, making sure that he's right there.
Matt Malcolm has made a joke in chat about Armstrong's pad efficiency. The joke is, rumor has it Armstrong drives his daily car with a gamepad. Now, that's actually an interesting conversation. I think most law about driving a motor vehicle on a public road says that you have to be at the wheel. Does it say what kind of wheel?
I don't think so.
I think he could. I guarantee if there's one person that could do it, it would be Armstrong. But I think you can't, obviously, but if you could, you might be able to. This is not legal advice. Do not use this as legal advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gas and chat saying that they wish that they could join this series, but their work, well, that is definitely unfortunate, but lucky to have you with us here on RCI TV and the RCI TV Family Network as one of the hypercars going through the LMGT3 field. Well, I can tell you what we got coming up on future racing events and broadcasts here at RCI TV for a complete and comprehensive list. Oh, contact there, but able to save it. I'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to it in a second as the hypercars try to navigate traffic and the Lesmos. Looks like they just about get it sorted out to Andy Cotton's detriment there. A little bit of contact coming through the Seconda very inside. But as I was saying, you can get a complete list of all the events we're running at racerci.com. And right now we have the Monday series, the Deutschland Masters Championship in ACC. Any German GT3 you want. We're taking a trip around the world, currently servicing round number 3 at Circuit of the Americas before going to Suzuka and then ending up at the Nordschleife in a few weeks' time. That running on Monday. You can sign up mid-season right now. LMU Fridays, which is what you're currently watching, the Sprint Series here on Friday. Round number 2. Still time to sign up and get with us and get involved for round number 3 at Fuji in 1 week's time. From there, we go to Portimao, Sebring, Spa, Circuit of the Americas, and Interlagos are our championship round stops. Join us next week. Night Owl continues this weekend as we go to Donington Park. I love a bit of Donning. It's my favorite racetrack. It's Thomas's favorite racetrack to hide bodies in the final corner. Katrina, you've been there. What do you think about Donning?
I like Donington. I think it's a fun track.
It is indeed close to the airport, if you need be, and parking's nice. The only good sausages, Donington. Either way, I digress. Night Owl continues this week in Donington Park, Barcelona, Watkins Glen, the remaining schedule. And as a reminder, you can sign up for all of those championships mid-season anytime by going to racerci.com. More iRacing championship news coming up in the near future, as well as World Tour news coming up in a few weeks as well. Join the Discord, and we would love to have you with us. ACC, LMU, iRacing, whatever it is, join us, and we would love to see you on a track coming up this week. Big shout out to all of our partners that make this race and every race possible. AK Esports, Coach Dave, Delta, Greenman Gaming, Moser Racing, and of course a shout out to Motorsports UK. We're a recommended esports community over there, so thank you very much. Well, there's certainly a couple of drivers today that could have used some Coach Dave Delta help, and of course they have LMU setups and stuff over there, so go check them out, Coach Dave Delta. And I would hazard the guess that several of our drivers today are using that service.
Yeah, Jesse, I would be, to be honest. If it was open to me and it was brand new sim, I think I would ask for a bit of help. And that seems like the perfect place to go.
Yeah, Coach Dave Academy is absolutely brilliant. They got iRacing setups, LMU setups, and ACC setups. Use our link in the description. It lets us know that we've sent you. Our broadcaster, Ted Edwards, has reacted to the tire graphic, and that tells us that, yeah, some of the teams, some of the drivers have taken different tires, or at least I believe that's what that is intending to indicate. So Sirich has hard tires on the front and mediums on the back. So all we know, Katrina, is this graphic tells us that they're using a mixture of tires, which you can do. So it could be lefts and rights, it could be fronts and backs, but Sirich and Fazekis are using a similar strategy where some combination of the tires are the medium and the hard compound.
That is interesting. It's apparently, I'm hearing from Ted that it is fronts because he can see the tire wall, which means he's got better eyesight than me, for sure.
How weird, I gotta interrupt this important conversation. How weird is it to call him Ted?
Strange, very strange.
You don't have to if you don't want to. I screwed up the intro. I almost called him Thomas myself.
Shall I just keep calling him? I feel like people might start calling him Thomas.
Listen, it's the first broadcasting couple we've ever had at RCI. Make yourself at home. You call him anything you want as long as you can say it on YouTube. So we're being told that one tire has been changed on Sirich's car. Oh yeah, you can see it. The sidewall is different. So the front left tire on Sirich's car is a hard tire. And because most of the turns are clockwise here at Monza, that tells me that he's having, with whatever setup he's using, excessive wear in the front left, the tire that's loaded up the most. So he's counteracted that additional tire wear by using a harder compound to eke out the length of the tire to hopefully not have to change tires later on. And I would hazard the guess that Barnabas Facekiss has done exactly the same thing for the same reason, just in a completely different hypercar.
Yeah, that to me, Jesse, says that they've put a lot of thought into this, and a lot of, maybe some practice laps went in to see if that was going to work for a long period of time as well.
Oh man, Chet's giving me one. I don't know what Matt's talking about. Matt Malcolm. Listen, I call you're Matt. You've been Matthew. You're Malk. You're the Malk. I mean, come on. Got some love from chat as well for the broadcasting company. You can't hear Thomas. Thomas and Katrina, they're partners, but Thomas is the one talking in our ear. Always talking to Katrina, talking in my ear today. Yeah, it's. I mean, I got to put you on the spot. I'm sorry. Does this help or hurt your relationship outside of broadcasting?
Help. We'll go with help.
Because look, you're building, skills together. You're working together. I mean, they always tell you not to work with your partner and all that, right?
But we're spending time together, Jesse.
That's right.
Like, this is quality time that we're spending together.
Except that you're spending it with a third party.
Welcome in.
Nope. Moving right along. Kaspar out in front of the pack with Roche in second place. That gap's now expanded another second, 3.6 seconds. Gottschalk has established themselves in third place all by themselves. It wasn't too long ago that Gottschalk was nearly overtaken by Louis Kirton. Didn't happen. Kirton has now fallen about 1.8 or so seconds off of the overall pace. Rodriguez not a threat to Kirton, however, in the Alpine in fifth. We just went over some of the different tire strategy. A couple of cars have elected to use Barnabas Facekiss one of those. They've got a hard left front tire, which is there's more right-handers than left-handers. What does that mean? Well, you load up the opposite tire to the turn you're going on. So putting too much load through that tire heats it up, wears it. They've elected to run a harder tire there, and only time will tell how effective that is. If this works, this could be a more common strat. It would raise some eyebrows if this continues to work. It looks like it's working now, but it's got to work for another 28 minutes.
Yeah, you're right, Jesse. It has got to work for another 28 minutes. But like you say, if it does work, maybe in the next couple of races, we'll see people trying out different strats with different tires, depending on the racetrack, which is always exciting. We love to see new things.
Well, I mean, it's new to all of us, right? It's new to us up here in the booth. Thomas reacted wildly to it. And once I figured out what was actually going on, I love it. We love seeing different kind of strat. We love putting that in the driver's hands, allowing them to experiment and figure out what could possibly work and what couldn't work. If it's allowed in WEC, it's allowed in this series, and it's allowed. So they have done exactly that. And everyone that's not doing that probably didn't want to chance it, but is also going to go back and review this data. They're going to review the stream. They're going to look at it and go, okay, I could in theory do this myself in the future if need be. Is it a strategy that could work at all tracks? Who knows? But certainly something in practice leading up to this week led them to believe that using one hard tire on the most loaded up end of the car was the right strategy to get that thing to the end without making a tire change. Very interesting indeed. Klaus Nyring, by the way, continues to lead in LMGT3, has led the entire way over Willemot. Willemot, who frankly stunk up the show a week ago, has not done that here today. Klaus Nyring getting close to doing that themselves. Here is the 155 Ferrari out in front of the field. The maroon-colored Ferrari, of all things, for spirit of the race. Lindner in third place in the McLaren. It is a Ferrari, BMW, McLaren podium right now. Vic in fourth with Vestrepa in fifth place. Armstrong still in sixth place, trailing Vestrepa by some distance, about 3 or so seconds, in fact. So that gap has tripled in the past 20 or so minutes, but all things do as time goes on. Beckett, Cotton, Buckley, the other cars still running around the track. Cinny and Gill have retired from the race, one for, I assume, mechanical issues and one for electrical.
Yeah, that's right. We heard that Ryan Gill had electrical issues, but we don't really know what happened with Cinny, so
Yeah, Cinny did have contact with a car coming back onto the racetrack, but they should have been able to repair that damage unless they had an additional incident somewhere that we didn't see or something else went wrong. Either way, Cinny out of the race, and I don't believe we'll get any championship points here today. Porsche Penske still going at it, and this will be round number 2. This battle cooled off for a little while, but here they are again. Sirich in the lead over Badowski, the fight for 6th place. Billy Octane has been dropped by 1.8 seconds, was right behind them a little while ago. So round 2, ring the bell. Porsche Penske going at it again.
yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, although they're sharing the same livery, they aren't on the same team, so both fighting for that place as we see him go down the inside.
Inside's going to become the outside here. Badowski's trying to hang out. It's actually more beneficial to be on the outside as long as you can hold it, but he can't do. Badowski losing it. Good. Oh my goodness. Good save on that car. I thought he was going to lose it there for a second or two, but gets it going the right way and back under control, losing a ton of time to everyone around him. Sirich, I thought Sirich may have been dead to rights there, and he might have been had Badowski not nearly lost at the dirty side of the racetrack. You can see the marbles, the clag on the outside. And I think he got into a bit of that, did Marco. And it almost all came undone right there. Almost gave Billy Octane a 7th place position and certainly helped them gather it back in. So round 2's over. That also went the way of Sirich. Round 3. Marco loads up again. He'll come back for another one. He seems like he's got the pace, doesn't he, Katrina? He just hasn't had the ability to get by him. Catching one thing, passing's another, I suppose.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's wanting it. He seems like he's got the pace, just maybe time will tell.
Nick Cooper's joined us in chat, said that he's dead, colon, parenthesis, open parentheses, which is a frowning face for you children out there. Remember old school emojis? What are they called? They're called something now. They used to have a name, but they're called something now because they're not called they're called something emojis, but they're emojis before emojis were a thing. But anyway, I digress. Nick Cooper saying he's dead, and he was. Saw him up against the barrier, and the stream caught it. Yeah, unfortunately, Ted Edwards did in fact catch that, our eagle-eyed broadcaster. So hashtag blame Ted.
Jesse, the name of the emojis that were old, were they called emoticons?
No, so emoticons are still... They might be, actually. I don't... retroactively, I felt like retroactively the sort of analog emoticons things that we used to use were given like a posthumous name or something that they're called now to discern them. But I can't remember for the life of me. But it might have been. It might be. I'm too old.
You know who would be a smiley face emoticon right now? It's Caspar in front.
Yo. Yep. Just he might even be semicolon 2 close parentheses.
Oh my goodness.
Double smiley face because of the 5.5 second lead. No, Nick, you're not. Hey, listen, hey, Nick, you are amongst friends. All right, we're all getting to that point, except Katrina, who's young and lovely in every single way. Isn't that right, Thomas?
He said yes, guys. You can't hear him, but he said yes.
He definitely didn't say yes, but he better say yes at some point. Anyway, Kessler is absolutely smiling. 5 seconds gap. It's not nearly as big as it was a week ago, the gap first to second, but still slowly been building that lead all day long. Been going all their way. Roche has been trying. Got to give Peter credit here in the Alpine. Looking like another great finish for Peter Roche as well. Gottschalk, who spent the majority of qualifying outside the top 15, qualified decently well up inside the top 5, but now has gotten up to third and has just sort of settled in. 10 seconds off the lead, 5 seconds behind Roche. The more pressing matter is Louis Kierton is catching Gottschalk again for P3. And right behind all that, Maciej Sirik has caught Rodriguez for 5th place. Badowski, because Sirik has been held up by Rodriguez, Badowski has further caught up. Billy Octane in 8th place, still waiting in the wings. No movement there, but you can see all 4 of those cars I just mentioned in the same picture, which tells you pretty much they're all relatively next to one another. The Alpine, the number 35 anyway, fading here a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think maybe we're 20 minutes left of the race. I'm thinking we're going to start seeing some of these cars come into a pit with the pace dropping off a little bit. Might be the perfect time to do that.
Still got plenty of time here, 20 minutes, and do bear in mind, as best we can tell, every single car, barring the Driesch number 19 Lamborghini, has to come down the pit lane. And as if on cue, Marco Badowski has decided, and I think this is ultimately the smartest of moves, had caught Sirik for the 3rd time and has decided this is the right time to come into pit lane. Louis Kierton doing the same thing, was catching Gottschalk a little bit. Now that's not a tire stop. That is just a fuel and energy reset stop for the driver that was P4. They're down and gone. No problems there from Louis Kierton. Grant Willemont pits out of P2 and LMG T3. Oh, and here comes the Lamborghini again. Driesch is in the pit lane again.
No, that is strange to see. I wonder whether we're going to see another different set of tires maybe on that car.
Zeno Driesch, who pitted 20 minutes into this race, has now come in 20 minutes later and is back up on the jack stands. Now, I did not detect a strange tire strategy from them, but the Iron Lynx Lamborghini back up on the jacks, making major changes here for the 2nd time in what can only be categorized as a unscheduled, or at very least an unnecessary 2nd stop had you run the race optimally.
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. It just seems odd, unless maybe we've not noticed them. Well, apparently they've come out on all medium, Jesse.
So that's exactly the way they were the previous time, but that's 2 pit stops for Zeno. So something must have been off with the strategy there, and now everybody coming down the pit lane. It seems like Adam Kapslar down the pit lane. Nothing odd there for the 83 AF Corsa, the car that was leading, and should probably retain after the pit cycle completes. Rodriguez, current leader in the 35 Alpine, still has a pit stop to give. Roche, no drama there. In fact, the only drama on pit lane was the Iron Lynx Lamborghini coming down a 2nd time. Lindner and Nyring into the pit lane for LMGT3. That hands the lead over to Vic, and Vastrepa still yet to pit. Ellis Buckley back down the pit lane again. But, Ellis Buckley not realizing this is not a Assetto Corsa, and you do not ghost in the pit lane, and rams into the back of another car. That is additional damage on Ellis Buckley's car, the GR Racing Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely. We said about this last week when we saw a few of the hypercars in the pit lane with the no ghosting situation.
I believe I'm being told by Milan van der Wegen that Dreesh had an incident, and that's why they've come down the pit lane a second time. And that sure would explain it. So shout out to Milan van der Wegen helping us out with that, because obviously we didn't catch that. Ooh, that could have been ugly, but danger averted. Phil Vick, the leader on the road, and LMGT3 still has a pit stop to do, of course, but would have been ugly regardless. So shout out to Milan. So Dreesh had a crash, had to pit. That explains the second pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely. They seem to. Hopefully, now that they've fixed their issue, it's nice to see them not retiring, though, to be honest. From a personal standpoint, I like it when people go back out there and try their best and see where they can get to.
Super aggressive by Christoph Streipa getting into pit lane there. Vic was a little tentative getting into pit lane. Christoph Streipa not that at all. Missed their pit stop. They both missed their box by about the same margin, I would argue, having to go up on the Jackson B, pushed back. The question will be, is this routine stops? And meanwhile, while this is going on, Rodriguez came in right before them and relinquished the lead overall. And looks like a pretty even pit stop amongst the two of them. Streipa did gain quite a bit coming into pit lane. As long as he doesn't get a penalty for speeding in pit lane, which I don't think he was. I think he was fine. This is going to be fight on for P2 in LMGT3. Klaus Nyring goes back through. All good there. The 155 Ferrari flying high, some 8.5 seconds in front of those two. Andy Cotton in pit lane should complete the pit cycle with David Beckett in tow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see everybody coming in. With 14 minutes left, it will be exciting to see where we get to afterwards and how everybody can perform now that they've done their pits and they're back out on the track.
Well, it's certainly, where do you go from here? What was your strategy? Did you execute said strategy correctly? Kind of deal. And we're not, unfortunately, we're not. I thought we knew a week ago coming into the final 10 minutes, but as it turns out, the last lap had a few surprises left for us. So I'm not even going to hazard the guess here of who's right and who's wrong. Well, it seemed pretty routine on pit lane this week, though, which is not something we could have said a week ago. A couple of cars needing to be moved a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. That's minor nitpicks. Kapslar leading over Roche. No movement there. Kierton has gotten in front of Gottschalk by virtue of pitting first, I would believe. But the Toyota of Gottschalk right behind Kierton now, fighting over that P3 spot. Behind them is this fight. Barnabas Fazekas attempting to stay in front of Billy Octane, who has lost out on that cycle of pit stops.
Yeah.
So did Badowski. No, Badowski. Oh, Lily Armstrong hard into the barrier. The wing of that car completely removed. Did Armstrong get there by themselves, or was there help? That is a long old way into the sand. That is an immediate retirement from Lily Armstrong, who, that was in Parabolica, I believe, and all the way against the wall. Very strange. Oh, it's Lesmo too, I'm being told. That was in that's still a long way to the wall. That's way out there. Huge damage. The engine completely toasted on that car, you'd have to imagine. Leaned up against the wall the way it was with the rear wing taken off of it. Huge damage to that car. Has led to the retirement of what was our 6th place runner.
Yeah, Jesse, I'm thinking that it was probably self-inflicted. Maybe just a slight push too hard, and that's how they've ended up all the way in the barrier, which is unfortunate.
Unfortunate indeed. Hey, you know what's not unfortunate? All the deals you can get by going to greenmangaming.com and using our link in the description of the video. Did you know all the games that are coming out and have currently come out? Maybe pick up a new one that's just recently come out. Marvel Spider-Man 2's come out. You can get it for 15% off on Green Man Gaming. I think The Last of Us Part 2 is 16% off. You can get it for like $41.99 US or whatever it is in your local currency. Or maybe one of the games of the year, Balatro, about 10 bucks, 28% off. Use our link, check it out, search for more deals. There's more than that going on over there, but those are just some of the highlights. No Man's Sky just had a huge update as well, by the way. You can get that for less than $20 or 68% off. greenmangaming.com. Use our link, let them know we sent you. Well,
Okay, so
go ahead. Tell
I
them
was
the
going
news.
I was going to say, Ted has just told us that Armstrong did get taken out by Gottschalk, so that's why they ended up so far in the wall. But it doesn't seem to have affected Gottschalk very much.
That's unfortunate. So I sort of theorized to get that wherever that was meters off of the racetrack, and you don't really get there yourself most of the time. Normally you have hope, but Daniel Gottschalk, and that might have explained why Louis Kirton was up into third. We thought that may have just been the pit cycle. No, it was probably because there was contact. Gottschalk, now back up to third, has repassed Kirton for that third place position. But a unceremonious end to Armstrong's day. And I think the third hypercar on LMGT3 incident we've seen today that's led to a retirement of memory serves.
Yeah, I think you are right.
Well, we got a lot of love for the couple duo in the broadcast booth. One doesn't it suck though, Katrina? You have to listen to him though. Like, not physically listen to him, but he's directing the broadcast, so you have to take direction from him. Doesn't that suck?
Yes.
Because presumably you don't listen to him any other time. Why would you?
I'm a woman, Jesse.
Okay, well, that's not what I said, but I guess you can say that because you are one.
I am one, yeah.
It's definitely not what I was intending to say, but I was more making a joke about Ted, but you took that in a different direction. But we got some love for the first ever broadcast. You know, we have a stewarding couple here at RCI as well, a broadcast couple. Man, we need an admin couple, but that's too bad. Ryan Gill never returned any of my calls. We also, Mo in chat has also said, best commentary I've ever seen. You're being way too nice because we're the blind leading the blind here. But we do thank you very much all for being with us this evening, and especially to all of you in chat, of course. And of course, any of the drivers that have reported for us. We do appreciate that as well, letting us know what's going on inside the race. You know, Katrina, unlike other sims, we have to play this like a real broadcast team would, where we're never quite sure when something goes wrong what it is. And what do they do in real life? They go down to the garage and they ask, well, what happened? And it's the same thing we have to do here.
Yeah, pretty much. We just rely on the people to tell us more information. It's like you say, we can speculate, but we don't actually ever really know until someone tells us what happened.
Yeah, it is. And we do the same thing that real broadcasters do. We speculate a lot of what's going on out there. And I'd say we get it right about as much as the weatherman gets it right, I reckon. But Lindner here continuing now inside the top 5. Has a shot for a P4 here. Many positions here still in doubt. And that's not something we would have been able to say in Bahrain, but due to the nature of the track and the way that the race has unfolded, we've got many battles left to be decided here. One mishap can change the entire course of this one.
Yeah, absolutely. There's 6 minutes left of this race. We're seeing Barnabas Face Kiss trying to push a little bit harder just to see if they can gain a place here.
By the way, it's been doing my head in trying to figure out what analog emoticons are called. They're Calmojis. They're Japanese. They were invented in the 80s. They're Calmojis. And I knew I'd heard that somewhere. But some of you that won't make any sense. But that's what apparently analog emoticons are called. And who knew?
I didn't know. I'll be honest.
I've always just called them analog emojis, but I mean, that is what they are. But apparently the Japanese invented them in the 80s, and they're called Calmojis.
Nice.
The more you know. Just put the rainbow and the star across the screen. Barnabas Face Kiss in 9th place, trying to run down Badowski. It is impressive. We've only got, of the 15 hypercars running, only one of them is off of the lead lap, I believe. Unless that just updated and they're not on the lead lap. Or they still are. Okay, so Dreesh is off the lead lap, but they are the only running hypercar. And again, that's also rare because half of the hypercars were a lap down a week ago. Significant retirement rate today, but largely that is thanks to intercategory contact, which is something we didn't see in Bahrain very much at all. I think we saw one instance of that all race long. Capsar looking to capitalize on a win here. Roche looking to continue to make hay in the championship. Gottschalk salvaging the day, certainly qualifying. Just hasn't really had the outright pace, but has had enough and will looking like anyway. They're going to get rewarded with a podium, but it hasn't been without a challenge from Louis Kierton, who's been right there with him just about all day, and in fact was in front of him just a little bit ago as well. Rodriguez, 5th place. Sirik, Pettit, Badowski, Face Kiss, Octane still inside the top 10. Don't know what happened to that number 50 Ferrari, but they were further up the field prior to that pit stop, and they are certainly lost at least one spot to Barnabas there. Unsure if that was just a slow stop or what, but they're definitely down at least one spot. Final 4 minutes of the race. A couple of battles still left to be decided. This, of course, being one of them. Mikel Ramos and Fonza will go at it. It's not been the day Fonza would have liked for the second Toyota in the field, but it's not as if they haven't made progress. Up to 11th, they were certainly about 4 or 5 positions lower than that start the day, but unfortunately could find themselves being overtaken by the Team Jota Porsche here in a moment. This for 11th.
Yeah, but like you say, Jesse, a championship just means you have to maintain, and they've still picked up some points, I'm guessing, in 11th place today, so hopefully next week that they can come back fast and furious.
Yeah, hopefully they don't do Tokyo Drift, but beyond that, Fast and Furious is what you're looking for, and the action has been that today. As Mo has pointed out in chat, the nature of Monza is you can be retired by just a tiny mistake. Now, I couldn't have said that better myself. It's absolutely true. That's all it takes, and that's all that has taken here today, as illustrated by the way the race has gone. But Ramos and Fonza will continue to fight over that 11th place spot. Grant Willamont, who has fallen down the field themselves, was firmly in P2 prior to the pit stop, is in 4th place now, but will attempt to get by Vic, who's being hounded by some of the hypercar traffic here. Willamont being caught by Lindner. Lindner would like Willamont to get up there and give Vic a run for their money for 3rd. For the 2nd week in a row, Christoph Verstappen has sort of settled around the top 5 all day, and in the waning moments of the race has taken the Inception Racing McLaren up to a P2 position. It's just absolutely incredible, but it's not over yet. That is Vic, Willamont, and Lindner all in the rear camera view off Christoph Streppen's bumper. So again, one tiny mistake makes all the difference here. Klaus Neiring 9 seconds out in front, looking like a job done for them as long as they can get that car back around. But the fight for P3 well and truly on. One mistake from Verstappen, and it's a fight for P2 though.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic to see with a minute left how close all of this racing is.
One final shout out today to IMB Racewear. Check out their selection of custom made racing gloves. I know a couple of people here at RCI have those. They absolutely love them. Get your own at imbracewear.com. Grant Willamont's just been given a penalty. I saw that flash up at the top of the screen. Now, that's got to be track limits, surely. They've overrun their limit of, well, track limits. So Grant Willamont's got a penalty, and are they slowing to get out of the way here? I think they might be. And for your dominating driver from round one to penalties here, I thought he was getting out of the way. He wasn't. He was just BMW slower down the straight there, I think, is what happened. So that's going to be a penalty. And I don't know, as time expires here, I don't know how that's going to work. Here is Adam Kapslar, though, coming to the line. It's been a pretty brilliant day for the AF Corsa 83, and it will be an exceptional win for Adam Kapslar, who will win it in grand fashion, took the pole, and has never looked back. Peter Roche drove up to P2, and it's a brilliant finish for Daniel Gottschalk as well, who definitely in the waning moments of qualifying looked like they were in trouble. Not so. A podium for the Toyota today. Louis Kierton continues their great drive as well, proving it's not a fluke. Louis got talent, and he's putting it on display here in RCI Fridays. Rodriguez in fifth. Sirik, Badowski, Pettick, Fazekiss will come across the line. It looks like Octane Moaning, Ramos, Fonza, and Roscom, who's just come into the pit lane, I've just noticed, and Dreesh, that will be where they all finish. Looked like Ramos did get by the number 7 Afonso. But here is Klaus Neiring. Katrina, what do you got to say? Just controlled the race, stayed out of trouble. We didn't see him much today. Probably the way he prefers it.
Yeah, definitely. Just keeping it out the front, keeping it clean, and making sure that he keeps hold of that number 1 spot.
Klaus Neiring looked for a rebound today, looked to get back into the swing of it, and he's done it in the spirit of the race. 155 Ferrari. He's won it in LMGT3 here at Monza. What a brilliant drive from them, and Christoph Strepa for the second week has had to respond after a so-so qualifying performance. The number 7 Inception McLaren. Looks like Phil Vick will get credit for third place over Lindner. Willamont will finish 5th. And I suspect that's after penalties applied. Cotton 6, Beckett, Buckley, your finishers. Significant attrition in LMGT3. Well, what a race. Complete and polar opposite of Bahrain, where everybody looked like they were sort of walking on eggshells a little bit. Today, it was elbows out. Adam Kapslar winning it, 37 laps, 11 seconds the gap. Back to Peter Roche, Daniel Gottschalk third, Louis Kierton again. I can't say this enough. The younger Kierton, of course, Olivier will say, I taught Louis everything they know. He probably did, in fact, for P4. Michel Rodriguez, Maciej Sirik, Marco Badowski, David Pittick, Barnabas Fazekiss, Billy Octane, your top 10 in hybrid. Michael Moaning, Mikel Ramos, Francesco Fonza, Theobald Roscom, Zeno Drish, your finishers in the hypercar class. Nick Cooper, Jack McDong are both exited after incidents. There's a lot of drama in LMGT3, but not the way you would normally expect it. Klaus Nyring didn't see any of it from his perspective, leading Christoph Strepa to the win by 9 seconds. Klaus, with just a brilliant drive, stayed calm, cool, and out of sight for everyone today. Verstappen does his best, uh, I wouldn't say vanishing act, reappearing act for the second week in a row, driving through the hardest part of the field to another P2. Phil Vick, it's an excellent drive from them as well. Lindner in third place. Grant Willamont, your top five. Cotton, Beckett, Buckley, Armstrong, and Sinney. Of course, Armstrong, Sinney, and Gill did not finish. Two of those cars a victim of incident, one a self-retirement. Well, another race in the books and another race, Katrina, where I'm none the wiser. We've saw two races thus far, and it's hard to glean anything from them. One was mostly controlled and calm. Today was completely chaotic. We're going to Fuji in Japan. We're going to visit Mr. Fuji-san next week. Any idea what to expect at Fuji?
No.
As simply put, absolutely not. Well, what we're going to do before we sign off, we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to show you the results from Split 2 in week number, or excuse me, Split 2 today. Of course, two splits. You were watching Split 1, Split 2 was also running. So we're going to get our broadcaster to show you the results of Split 2 here tonight so we can talk about those results as well. But in the meantime, just a brilliant race today, ran by some drivers that really needed some good finishes. I think we can all agree. Some less than stellar performances from others. They will be looking to rebound. But I couldn't agree more. I'm completely lost for Fuji. Fuji is a nice mix of both of the racetracks we've been to thus far. A little bit of Bahrain with some of the twistier, tighter bits. A little bit of Monza with some of the wide open bits. And I just don't know what to expect. We've not seen a specific manufacturer dominate, a specific driver dominate. I don't think we'll see it next week either. I think it's going to be what do you reckon? A third different winner.
Yeah, I think so, Jesse. I think that it's going to be something new again for everybody, and I think we're going to see someone else come out on top, hopefully. And then I'm also hoping that we see more tire changes and difference in tires and people trying out new things and strategies. So that's my go-to take from next week going into Fuji.
Well, I tell you what, we saw a couple of cars use a hard left front tire. Fuji is also a clockwise circuit that is heavy deg on the front left tire. Could we see even more use that strategy? We'll have to show next week to find out. Here is the results from Split 2 today. Of course, we showed you Split 1. This is the Split 2 race that's just concluded as well. Starting with LMGT3, Tom Watts wins it over Mulkin. Top three, all McLarens here with Daniel Durrett in third, Callum Kerrigan fourth, Matthias Budemont in the fifth place. I can count. Jordan McGonigal in and also Rob Franken. So the three McLarens, a Ferrari in the middle, and three BMWs. McGonigal did not finish down at the bottom. And here is the hypercar class. John Becker wins it in the number 2 Cadillac. Rare choice. There's not even one in split number 1, but it wins split 2. Rudy Philmalter finishes P2 in the Porsche Penske. Nice, or Nice, if you prefer, in third place in the Ferrari. Everybody else was a lap down. Kevin Boss finishes in fourth place. Peter Varga in fifth. Burke, Reese, Hauser, Keith Whittle, Schubern, Osmanov, your top finishers in the hypercar class. Actually, Schubern and Osmanov did not finish, in fact. 3 cars finishing on the lead lap there. 136 to quick lap as well. Well, that's how they stacked up in Split 2 today. Shout out to Kevin Boss and the Wheelie Slow Racing team for providing us that information. Katrina, before we sign off tonight, final thoughts on what you saw.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's what my final thoughts are. I'm glad that we got to see different people racing for different positions this week, with different strategies. A little bit of bumping going on, a little bit of multi-class, tickles, shall we say. Um, yeah, just all over. I enjoyed it very much.
Last week, we saw chaos in the form of strategy. This week, we saw chaos in the form of accidents. We go to Fuji next week, live here on RCI TV, by the way. What will we see there? I'm going to guess different winners and a mix of both. We'll bring you all the action live next Friday, live from Fuji here on the LMU Sprint Series on RCI TV. Our next broadcast on the channel coming up on Monday. The Deutschland Masters Season 2 Championship continues, making its trip to Circuit of the Americas for the middle round of that championship. John Dalton bringing you all the actions with Callum Kerrigan on that broadcast on Monday. From all of us here at RCI, thank you so much for watching this broadcast. Thank you for clicking the links and visiting our fantastic partners that have been revolving in the top and the bottom parts of the screen all race long. It's been our pleasure to bring you this broadcast. We hope that you have a very pleasant weekend and take care of all of yourselves. I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Katrina and Ted Edwards. Thank you so much for being with us here on Fridays, and we look to see you on a grid near you. RaceRCI.com for more information. But until next time, until next week, have a good night. Take care.